Hey everyone, it's Jakov, and I'm back here with a new video for Total War The Dawnless Days. If you're new here, The Dawnless Days is a mod for Total War Attila, which completely overhauls the game and bases it off of the world of Lord of the Rings. In today's video, I'm going to be starting a new series, in particular looking at army builds for different factions at different tier levels. Today's video being based on Dale at a bronze tier army level. We're going to have a bronze tier Dale army go head to head with a force of the Goblins, kind of demonstrating what kind of force that Dale at this level should be expected to face off against, and how the armies match up to one another. With all that said, let's look into the different armies. Pressing start, but we're going to make sure it's in slow motion. We'll look at the Dalian Army, beginning with their general unit. Leading the Dalian force, we have a Lake Town Guard general unit, pretty cool. Making up the front line of the Dalian army, we have Spear Militia, so we've got 3 units of those, all lined up and ready to go. And then to provide range support, we have 2 units of Yeomen, who are Longbowmen, and 1 unit of the Dalian Rivermen, which are Skirmishers. Finally, as I ace up the faction's whole, in the flank of their army, hidden in the trees, we have Northmen Scouts, their first starting cavalry unit. Looking at the Goblin force, it's led by a High Chieftain's Guard, and it is very much a large army. Looking at it, it's quite a mixed one too. So you've got a couple units of Goblin Scrappers, which are their starting axe infantry unit. You've got a couple units of Goblin Light Infantry, which are their regular starting melee infantry. And to provide a bit of extra defense just in case it's needed against marauding cavalry, we have 2 units of Goblin Warband, which are their spear equivalent. And then finally, for range support, leading up the front, we have a unit of Snaga Javelins. In fact, we have a couple of units of Snaga Javelins. Now then, because it's going to take a while for the 2 armies to meet, we're just going to press fast forward so they get ready to face off against each other. So yeah guys, I've been meaning to make this series for quite a while, but it was hampered by the fact that I've been having a lot of issues with my recording equipment. But now that that mostly seems to have gone away, we should be good to make more videos like this with actual army fighting instead of just pure faction breakdowns. Also, if my voice seems a bit weird for this video, it's because I'm suffering from a illness currently. I'm not too sure what it is. I think it's a throat infection or something, and my mouth is absolutely messed up currently. So yeah, that's also why some of my videos in recent times have been taking a while to be released. Looking at the Dalian forces, they're withdrawing their skirmishers to get behind their front lines. Now, one thing I want to note is that I was leading the Dalian army, and the Goblins were just a AI. So, just letting you know, the tactics that you see in this battle aren't exactly going to be the most precise or amazing. It's very much as a basic test battle of me showing what the 2 forces can do against each other. That said, it does have some pretty epic moments as far as I'm concerned that help show off just how effective different units can be in different circumstances. And this is one thing where the Goblins actually have it in their favour, is that because they're so small, accurately hitting them is actually quite dangerous, unless you're this guy over here, in which case, you know, you're kind of doomed. But apart from that, it is quite a bit of a hassle to kill them. One thing to note is that when building the Dalian army, I made sure to give it a lot of ranged firepower in equation to its infantry force, just because Dale is an archer civilization first and foremost. And in charge the Goblins. And this poor bastard got stabbed right through the head with a spear. Press K to give it a bit of a cinematic feel. And yeah, here we go. The Dalian's already been gutted by a Goblin. So my headcanon for this battle, which you can feel free to go along with or not, is that this is set right after the Battle of the 5 Armies with the establishment of the new Kingdom of Dale, and that a Goblin force has decided to try and attack it early on to maraud it. However, Dale has been forced to field what little forces it has at this early stage, and yeah, it's the case of Dale defending its borders. One thing to note is that I plan on doing these videos to other factions too, and as I go on, I'm going to change the enemies that they face to be more equivalent to what they would be facing, both as a in-game general unit and also as an enemy. Here comes the cavalry charging into the flank, and they absolutely devastate them. So yeah, for example, at this tier, bronze tier, the Dalians are fighting off against, you know, small hordes of goblins, but if we reach tier 3, for example, they might be facing off against armies of Eastlings, where the Dalians fought them in the War of the Ring. So yeah, it just changes. And here we have it, the great battle of our times. Well, not really that great, given there's only maybe 3,000, 4,000 warriors on the field of battle. But even so, you know, that's a respectable number. Here we can see the archers are attempting to skirmish down the general unit for all the good it's going to do. However, even so, just thinning out their numbers that little bit helps, given that these are the most dangerous warriors on the battlefield. They outrank even the Dalian General, the Lake Town Guards. These guys being a gold tier general, and the Dalian Guard being silver. Now here, the Dalian Cavalry is doing a really good job, because it's drawing out the general unit, making it all the more vulnerable to being shot in the back by archers, meaning that more casualties will arrive. And that's exactly what you want to see happen. The more casualties they have, the less of an impact they'll have when they finally reach the battlefield. And it also means that they take longer and longer to be deployed. As you can see, the cavalry just running circles around them, and it's about to smash right into them. And there you go, you see the goblins just go flying for the hills. Now keep in mind, cavalry is quite devastating. And although these guys are, you know, like the lowest of the low when it comes to horsemen. And here we see Archer 5 begin to kill a couple of them, which is, you know, quite a sad sight. Going back to what I was going to say, despite being the lowest of the low when it comes to being horsemen, these guys are absolutely massive in comparison to the goblins. It's bad enough being a human-sized foe being hit by cavalry, but to be a... Ooh, that horse just got shot through the head. But to be a goblin, which is half the size of a man, being hit by these things, it's way worse. If you want to see the size comparison, look at the front lines. See how small the goblins are in comparison to men? Now one thing to note here is that despite goblins, in my opinion, being the lesser form of orcs of all kinds, goblins are actually considered tougher than regular orc rabble units. Which is a bit weird given these guys are rabble units too, but it is what it is as far as the mod creators are concerned. It's a trend that you see in a lot of other mods too, in which that goblins are tougher than orcs. So for example, in 3rd Age Reforged for Medieval 2, the goblin forces there are tougher than the orc rabble units. And here they come. It's constantly cavalry charging. And it's good because by using their superior mobility, they begin to even out the numbers in favour of Dale. Keeping reserve are the Dalian General and the Archer units. And the skirmishers, having used up their javelins, have run right into battle and are now flanking the goblins and killing them. And this is a very effective way of using the skirmishers as a flanking force. If you send them in the front lines, they're at a disadvantage. Here we see goblins just flipping guys over constantly, and there goes another one. Cavalry still running around. Who's it going to hit into this time? Is it these retreating goblins? Yes, it is. Now, while you might say it's a bit stupid to go after already retreating infantry, there is a purpose, and that is, if you make sure they're completely shattered instead of broken, they cannot return to the battlefield. Whereas if you think you've knocked them out of the battle, you run off to more juicy targets, you might end up being flanked from the rear. Looking at the bodies, they do tend to be more Dalian than Goblin. And that makes sense given that while Goblins are pretty crappy units, they are fighting against Spearmen, while these Goblins are themselves offensive infantry who were designed to kill Spearmen. So it is somewhat in their favour that the battle's going the way it's going. And the general units reach the fray now, which is quite nasty. And the Dalian Lake Town Guard have been deployed, looking like they're planning on doing a flanking attack to come around the side and hit the Goblins. Cavalry is still fighting, blood still spraying everywhere. And sorry about the lighting here. Attila doesn't exactly have the best lighting in the world for the Total War title, so yeah. Quite a bit of devastation around here. And there's the actual general of our battle, the red-cloaked Dalian officer, who does look amazing, I may add. Press K to come out of cinematic mode, and as you can already see, a lot of units are running for the hills, being shattered. These spearmen are at the end of their tether. The cavalry is still going, but it's lost over half of its forces. And the Lake Town Guards are about to engage with the core of the enemy infantry. And the Rivermen are about to break. The Spear Militia are gone. And it begins. General versus General. The cavalry over here is tearing apart the skirmishers, which is very smart. If these skirmishers were allowed to survive the Sniper Javelins and come around the rear, the Dalian General would be gone. They're quite lethal. As much as I dislike skirmisher units, in the right circumstances when there's no archers to contest them with ammunition, they can be very useful, especially if they've got positioning on their side. And here we have a mix of archers versus skirmishers, so first they dueled each other at range, now they're dueling each other in close combat. And with the help of the Goblin warband, the archers are just about doomed. Looking at the balance of favour, the humans are outnumbered about 3 to 1. Now, while it may seem very bad that Dale is in this position, and that they're about to be swamped by enemy infantry, by grouping up their men like this, the Goblins have actually left themselves very vulnerable. As you can see, the cavalry's coming around for a flanking attack, and now that they're all grouped up, they don't have anything in reserve to keep them off guard. If I was them, I would have moved that spear unit up here, but a bit too late for that. And then they come, hitting both the general unit and the regular infantry. And just like that, they've almost broken the general unit, and they've already sent another unit running, a couple of units running. And remember, even if these troops come to their senses and rejoin the battle, that morale damage is already there, so they're going to be far more likely to break again. The High Chieftain's Guard is returning, having lost about half of his unit. And here we have the Bulwark of Dale, the Lake Town Guard, just holding the line. And to their credit, the Yeomen are doing a good job too. But that's really it, that's all Dale has available at its disposal. A unit of cavalry that's been mauled half to death, a unit of Yeomen that's about to break, and Lake Town Guard that's fairly healthy. And they're coming around for another cavalry charge. So in they come. And the general is broken just by having the cavalry even come near them. The threat of being cavalry charged was enough to make them break. And there they go. However, to the Goblins' credit, they have deployed their warband, who are quite a nice counter for the cavalry, but it's too late. The Goblin general got put down. And with the battle as it currently is, yeah, I don't really think the Goblins are going to be winning this one. The cavalry, however, is very much on the edge of breaking, just because of how much damage they've gone through. And there we have it, people. It seems as if a victory for Dale has been accomplished, against all odds. A Pyrrhic victory, as it were, given that most of the Dalian army has been killed, but even so, a victory is a victory. Looking at the unit stats, the Dalian army did pretty damn good. The Dalian General, the Laytown Guard, got quite a few kills, as did the Spear Militia, who did very well. The Rivermen did quite good for such a relatively underpowered unit, and the Northmen's Scouts did absolutely amazing, devastating the majority of the enemy army and getting the majority of the kills. However, apart from that, this unit of Spear Militia did pretty poorly, only getting 65 kills, and this Archer unit didn't do too great either. Looking at the Goblins, however, their general did fairly alright, getting 119 kills. Had he been allowed to deploy into battle earlier and hadn't been distracted by the cavalry, he would have gotten way more kills. Apart from him, this unit of Goblin Light Infantry did pretty good, getting over 150 kills. This unit of Scrappers did very well. This unit of Warband did quite good too, and this unit of Sniper Javelins didn't do too bad, all things considered. Overall, it was a pretty interesting experience for me to do. I'm looking forward to making more of these videos in the future, so rest assured there will be more coming up. If you've liked this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It might not seem like much, but for such a small channel, it is massively appreciated. Now, with all that said, this is your host, Jakov, signing out.